Former Attorney General Pam Bondi, who you saw right there, was supposed to have her deposition taken under oath by the House Oversight Committee this morning. She refused to take the oath. She said she wouldn't do it. She was represented by a Justice Department lawyer who also made sure that Bondi would refuse to answer any questions about Donald Trump at this Oversight Committee hearing this morning. Also, Pam Bondi refused to be filmed for what was supposed to be an under oath film deposition. So no film, no under oath, refusing to answer questions about Donald Trump. Every time she was asked a question about Donald Trump's connections with Epstein, the DOJ lawyer would interject and say, "We're not answering any questions whatsoever about Donald Trump." She's refusing to answer those questions. When Bondi did speak, she threw Attorney General or Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche under the bus. She said, "Go and ask him. I didn't do it. He did it. The Department of Justice is a big sprawling organization, so I wasn't involved in a lot of things regarding the Epstein files. You can't blame me, blame others, blame Todd Blanche." She literally threw Todd Blanche under the bus. And folks, we have a copy of Pam Bondi's opening statement, which I'll share with you in a little bit as well. But here's one of the things that she said, quote, "As the head of a large department with broad responsibilities, I did not lead every aspect of this effort or conduct that document review myself. I delegated oversight over this process to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche." Again, throwing Blanche under the bus right there. And so as this deposition or non-deposition was supposed to take place, Bondi, James Comer, the Department of Justice, which for some reason has one of their top lawyers in their personal capacity representing Pam Bondi, which seems entirely inappropriate to me, said no filming, no under oath. The Democrats put out a statement regarding that, saying Pam Bondi was at the heart of a White House cover-up, and Oversight Chairman James Comer is working to hide her testimony from the American people by not filming it. The survivors and the American people deserve to see her respond to the real questions about her mismanagement and cover-up of the Epstein files. So right as Pam Bondi pulled this stunt, no cameras, no under oath, Democratic Congress member, the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia, went out and spoke to the press. Here's what he had to say. Play this clip.
I just want to be very clear that we continue to be incredibly disappointed of the decision to not have this interview videotaped and then released to the American public. The second thing we asked Chairman Comer is to ensure that this interview is under oath. We understand the Attorney General is going to be there answering questions from Congress, but it should have been under oath and it should be videotaped. We obviously have a lot of questions as it relates to why only 50% of the files have been released, why many of the survivors were literally put in danger by the way the files were released, that private information should never have been released, and of course, why this continues to be some type of cover-up. And so those are our questions. There's many questions. We'll be here for the next few hours. But it's really important that we get to the truth and that the Attorney General answers the questions truthfully. And we'll continue to push, of course, for a videotape release transcript for everybody else.
Then as this deposition was taking place, or non-deposition was taking place, I should say, during a break, Democratic Congress member Garcia talked about how he asked former Attorney General Bondi 5 times about her conversations with Trump, and she refused to answer anything about Trump. She said, "I will not answer any questions," and the Justice Department lawyer would always interject and issue objections. Here, play this clip.
In that interview, and what she's saying here in her words and remarks is that it was Todd Blanche, the current acting AG, that was leading the Epstein investigation. And quite frankly, all of the mistakes that we saw, the redactions, not protecting survivors, she continues to push that back onto the acting AG, Todd Blanche, who, by the way, was Donald Trump's former personal lawyer. I also personally asked the former AG 5 times and 5 different questions about her conversations with President Trump, whether he directed her at any given time on the Epstein files, what he knew, what he asked her to redact or not, and she refused to answer any questions about President Trump. In fact, she said that she would not speak or respond to any questions that had anything to do with President Trump. It's also
So here is Pam Bondi's opening statement right here where she throws Todd Blanche under the bus. Let me just share it with you. And again, she refused to be videotaped, so I'm going to try to channel what took place. She said, "Good morning. Before we start today, I want to reiterate what I have said many times regarding the department's handling during my tenure as Attorney General of the voluminous materials that are now commonly known as the Epstein files. I am proud of the department's record and committed to transparency under my leadership. We demonstrated an unprecedented commitment to transparency in the department's search for a collection and review of the Epstein files, producing nearly 3 million pages of material, including thousands of videos and hundreds of thousands of images." Pause right there. You're still covering up perhaps 5 to 10 million documents, videos, and photographs that are probably the most damning and damaging. Also, you can't really brag about transparency where you refuse to testify under oath, you refuse to actually sit for a legitimate deposition, and you refuse to be filmed. So your words ring very hollow. And by the way, the Epstein survivors were waiting outside in the hall. I'll show you what they had to say in a moment as well. Bondi goes on to say, "These investigations span 4 administrations dating back to the Bush administration and have gone through the Obama administration." Got it. You're going to blame Obama and Biden. We don't need to hear that. She goes on to say, "This was enormously complicated and labor intensive. To the best of my knowledge, the department produced everything under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Our diligent and good faith effort to collect materials ensured that all potentially responsive documents that could be reasonably located would see the light of day. All department components were directed to submit any potential responsive records with broad responsibilities. I did not lead every aspect of this effort or conduct that document review myself. I delegated oversight over this process to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. The team of professionals who reviewed all of the materials that we collected assured me that only the materials that were withheld were either non-responsive, privileged, or duplicative." Pause right there. So you, at this charade of a deposition, are claiming that all of your communications with Donald Trump are privileged. So by the same logic, Bondi, you were withholding those 5 to 10 million documents under the same frivolous privilege grounds. You're claiming some sort of executive privilege that Donald Trump's cover-up of a child sex trafficking ring doesn't have to see the light of day. You're quite literally doing that today, right now, by not answering those questions. So yes, when you use the word privileged, who's making the privilege determination? You and the people who are representing you and the DOJ and the people who are covering up the damn child sex trafficking ring. So we don't buy this one bit. But it is interesting she throws Todd Blanche under the bus, isn't it? She goes on to say, "There were redaction errors, but since day one of the process, this department has been committed to accountability and transparency. Our stance has always been that the department stands ready to review any potential evidence of criminal activity regarding Epstein and his associates. I would like to repeat what I shared before the House Judiciary in February. I have spent my entire career fighting for victims, and I will continue to do so." No, you've spent your entire career covering up, apparently, for a child sex trafficking ring, in my opinion. And that's what your damn legacy is going to be. That was her opening statement. Back to Democratic Congressmember Garcia. She said that throughout this process today, this informal interview, if you will, she continued to push all of the investigation and blame on Blanche. Play this clip.
It's also interesting that sitting next to her is DOJ counsel, somebody that currently works for the Department of Justice, who on multiple occasions stepped in and told the former Attorney General that she was not going to answer those questions, and especially when we asked questions of what the president directed her to do. And so the DOJ is in there right now stopping questions about President Trump and about what happened in the release of these files and why so many survivors were doxxed and their information, of course, released to the public. And let me also just say, finally, before I turn this over to Liz, to Ms. Stein here, we asked questions about Ghislaine Maxwell and the transfer. And again, she referred those questions to Todd Blanche in the Bureau of Prisons. So let's be clear, we have many questions for Mr. Blanche and for the Bureau of Prisons that yet Republicans are refusing to ask. Why was she transferred to a less secure facility? And Ms. Bondi claims to have no knowledge of the actual transfer, no knowledge that it was a less secure prison, and didn't know about it until she found out after the fact, and then will refuse to answer additional questions. So let me introduce.
And we heard from Democratic Congresswoman Stansberry. Here's what she had to say.
One of the Department of Justice attorneys intervened and said that she did not have to answer the question because it was a voluntary interview, and said, in fact, quote, "We don't even have to assert privilege because of that," and said, quote, "We refuse to provide answers." That means that the United States Department of Justice is intervening on behalf of Pam Bondi to stop her from answering questions about what happened in the cover-up of this case and her conversations with Donald Trump, and is asserting that she does not have to answer questions because she is not required to, because she is not being deposed under oath. This is a cover-up. This will be remembered as the largest cover-up likely in American history, and it is clear that this interview is a smokescreen to try to show the American people that they are complying while they are not. Now, I also want to point out that there is not a single Republican in the room besides the chairman.
Now, before this deposition took place a little bit ago, you had James Comer saying the following on the Epstein files. This was about a month or so ago, leading into this deposition. Let's play this clip.
They have created a narrative, a false narrative, that there's a cover-up, and they've created a false narrative that Donald Trump somehow has some type of liability in this. Both narratives are getting exploded.
And this was James Comer's position on why no video depositions of Howard Lutnick, why no video depositions of Pam Bondi, but yes, video depositions of Hillary Clinton. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Hillary Clinton, not in the episode, get her on a video deposition. Pam Bondi and the people and Lutnick, so the people who are actually involved, why would we do that? They're coming in informally. No, they're not coming in informally. They were subpoenaed to show up. And just because they're like, yeah, but I'll still just show up voluntarily. These people are crooks. These people are criminals. These people are sick. Here, play this clip right here.
Based on, his description of events, do you have any concerns about the secretary's conflicting statements, and why not do this as a videotaped interview?
This is, with this transcribed, he's coming in voluntarily, first of all. So we don't video people that come in voluntarily. We didn't video Ted Waite last week. But at the end of the day, the transcript's the most important thing. I assume there'll be Democrat members here today. If not, there'll be staffers. I know there was criticism. I read somewhere that a member or two was complaining that this was on a day when Congress wasn't in session. When this was scheduled, we were supposed to be in session. This week was flipped with King Charles last week. So when we scheduled this, he was supposed to be here. So, if you're interested in the investigation, you can come here. I missed my son's baseball game last night because I want to be here, obviously, for this interview. And
then Congresswoman Stansberry posted the following. The Epstein saga could end today. Trump's DOJ could release all the files. They could arrest known perpetrators. They could pass legislation to help survivors. But instead, at every turn, they're blocking this investigation, breaking the law, and choosing to protect the president and Epstein's friends. It's time to turn the Epstein files into the Epstein trials and deliver hard-fought, long-overdue justice for survivors. The Oversight Dems account also posted, under Pam Bondi, survivors' names were unredacted. One survivor's name was mentioned over 500 times. Epstein's co-conspirators, they were redacted. These weren't errors, they were choices. Choices that protected the powerful and put survivors in danger. We heard from an Epstein survivor, Danny Bensky, outside of this charade, this farce that Bondi was doing. Here's what she had to say. Play this clip.
I think we're really hopeful that she's not going to talk about the Dow today. We hope that there's no deflection. To Charlene's point, I think this case has always been about more than Epstein and Maxwell survivors. And we don't want to send a chilling effect that survivors can't come forward. And so far, the DOJ has done everything they possibly can to intimidate survivors. And so we hope that today is actually a day where maybe she's had some reckoning and maybe there is some transparency now that she doesn't have the threat of being fired.
We heard from Epstein survivor Charlene Rochard, who spoke with Aaron Parnas of the MeidasTouch Network. Play this clip.
I'm here with Charlene Rochard, an Epstein survivor. Now, Charlene, what is one thing you want the public to know during today's Pam Bondi testimony?
I want the public to know that we're here for actually the public. We are here for you because not only do we want the truth and transparency, but the public deserves it as well. There are so many leads. This is a global sex trafficking ring, and we need to protect the next generation from this happening again.
What kind of leads are you talking about that the public may not be aware of?
Well, I have this right here, and this says the prominent names, and I'm just going to read them to you. Trump, Weinstein, Glenn Dubin, Prince Andrews, Jess Staley, Leon Black, Les Wexner, Alan Dershowitz, Bill Clinton, Howard Lutnick, William Barr, and I'd like to add, and Dyken Khan.
Thank you so much, Charlene.
We heard from Epstein survivor Merlina Lacerdo. Here's what she had to say. Play this clip.
What's your name? Marina Lacerda, minor victim 1.
So, what are you hoping comes out of today?
Well, we all hope that today Pam Bondi will be as clear as possible and hopefully bring accountability to the table. And, we just hope that she is here to, make some sense out of everything, because the last time we were here, there was a lot of lashing, there was a lot of dehumanizing the survivors. So we hope that she finds it in her heart to speak the truth today.
What would accountability look like?
Accountability will look like when all the perpetrators are brought to justice, and we have people actually, being, under oath. Right now we are really looking for some truth here. That's what we're looking for.
Also, Aaron Parnas from the MeidasTouch Network and from the Parnas's media company also says the following. Several Epstein survivors launched survivorsisters.org during Bondi's testimony. The website outlines the timeline starting in 1996 and shares voices of dozens of survivors at survivorsisters.org. I want to plug that as well because of the incredible courage that they've shown, unlike Bondi, who refused to be video, who refused to go under oath, because at her last hearing where she was under oath, this is what went down. I'll remind you, the Dow is over 50,000. Here, play this clip.
The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee will be in order.
Mr. Jordan, am I going to get an extra 45 seconds added to my time?
The committee will be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas. Ms. Bondi, the Attorney General can respond.
Thank you. The Dow has shattered 50,000 for the first time. This is crazy. They said it couldn't be done in 4 years, yet President Trump has done it in 1 year.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.